The challenge is the following. Consider a function that takes x and y as parameters, and we need to think about what data types will result in a pass-by-reference side effect for both of these, x and y. So the four data types or combinations of data types to consider are 1, a list and a tuple, 2, a string and a set, 3, a dictionary and a set, or 4, a tuple and a string. So one way that we could do this, and we will do this, is to create functions for each one of these combinations. So list and tuple will have a function 1, string and set will have a function 2, dictionary and set will have a function 3, tuple and a string will have a function 4, and we will do that in this video. But just before that, I just want to talk about some of the things that stand out just by looking at this. We know that in a list and a tuple, the tuple is not mutable. So in other words, it's immutable. The string and the set, well, the string is immutable. The dictionary and the set, they're both mutable. And the tuple and the string, they're both immutable. So line number 7 here, the dictionary and the set, is the answer that stands out, because if you think about this, we can pass a dictionary and a set over to a function. They're both going to be passed as an object reference. That means that whatever we do within the function, we're going to maintain that result outside of the function scope. So if we do anything to the dictionary inside the function, we're going to see that change outside of the function. And whatever we do to the set inside of that function, we could also see outside of the function. But don't worry, we'll prove this, and we'll do so now. So what I did do is I created these 4 functions. I just want to highlight that function 1 will apply to list and tuple. Function 2 will apply to string and set. Function 3 will apply to the dictionary and the set. And function 4 will apply to the tuple and the string. Let's talk about the data types that we'll be sending over to these 4 functions. We'll have a list, like we have up here, a tuple, like we have up here, a string, like we have up here, a set, like we have up here, and we have a dictionary, like we have up here. Now, all these other 3, set, tuple, and string, well, we'll use the same ones. It's no big deal. Okay, so function 1. Let's get to the first function. It's going to accept x and y. X is going to be a list. Y is going to be a tuple. Let's try to do something to x and do something to y to see if it has that side effect characteristic. So to x, we're going to append adding this to the list in F1, and y, which is the tuple, we're going to add something to the tuple. And that's the tricky part with this one. We know the tuple cannot be modified. It's immutable, so we know that this is going to have an issue. In fact, it's going to blow up and throw an error saying, hey, look, you can't do this. This is a tuple. But don't take my word for it. Let's run this and see what happens. So I have something going here where I'm asking the user, myself, when I run this, hey, what function do I want to run? And I want to run function underscore 1, because that's what I'm calling here, and I'm hit enter. And this is what happens. This is what happens. It says, hey, look, you can't run this, right? You can't execute this. Tuple doesn't have an attribute, append. It doesn't have a method called append. We know this. A tuple is immutable. It doesn't even have the append method. So we can disregard function number 1. So let's go to function number 2, where we pass x as a string and y as a set. What are we going to do within the function? We'll try to append to the string the following, and we'll try to add to the set the following. Well, before I tell you what happens, let's run it and we'll go through the results. So function number 2, underscore 2. So I get the following. We're running function number 2. Before we execute the function, we have the string Python rocks, and we have a set with 2 numbers in it, 3 and 4. After the function, we see that the string is Python rocks, which is the same as before, so it never changed to this, right? The original variable x that we're passing in, that never changed. We did create this, but what's happening is inside of the function, we created a copy. A string gets copied over. This is copied by value, passed by value for a string. And so it did do that. And then outside of the function, it reverts back to, doesn't revert back, but it's using the original value, which is just Python rocks. So that's what's happening with the string. The set, however, we do know that it had 2 originally, and we have 3 items afterwards because we're appending this text. So that is working, but we know that we can disregard this function too because the string gets passed in by value. Let's go to function number 3, where we have a x is passed in as a dictionary and y is a set. We're going to try to remove the key with 1 in the dictionary. We're going to pop it, and we're going to add the following text or string to the set. So let's run it. Say function 3. When we run this, we know that before we execute the function, we have a dictionary with 2 items in it. We have a set with 2 items. After we execute the function, we have a dictionary with only 1 item. So the pop did work. It does have that side effect, not only inside the function, but outside the function. And the set now has 3 items as well. So we know that that had the side effect too. We did something within the function, and outside the function, it carried over. So we know that this function 3 looks good, is very promising. That looks like the answer so far, at least is one of the answers, right? Let's go and take a look at function 4. And right off the bat here, we know that both of these are both immutable. We had an issue with the tuple before, and we had an issue with the string before. So we know that this is a double whammy here. But let's try to go through the logic here. When we try to append to a tuple, we know that this is going to throw an error. The tuple doesn't even have the append attribute, doesn't have that method. And we know that the string would actually execute if this didn't have an issue. This would actually execute. There's no issue with this line, but it is passed in as not a reference. It's passed in by value. So meaning that this function will create a new value for the string. It will manipulate it inside the function. And outside the function, we will have a reference to the original string object. So we know that when we run this, we're going to have an issue anyway because of this, right? We're going to have an error message. So function number 4, it blows up because there is no attribute append within this object. Well, what object? The tuple. The tuple is immutable. So hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't make sense or if something's not clear, let me know and we'll address it.